A 7-nation army couldn't hold me back from chronologically ordering the Kung Fu Panda 4 trailer. At least what I think the chronological order is. Took me long enough though, so maybe I could be held back a little. Also, imagine new TV spots for the movie releasing right as you're almost done with it. It couldn't be me. So yeah, between you and me, I don't mention all the clips in those, as with my ordering it can be easily determined when they take place based on my ordering. And because I want to avoid a cycle where more promo material keeps coming out and I'll never be able to finish this video. How I'll do it is that I'll chronologically play clips from the movie and then explain why I placed them there or even analyze them for a bit. Also I'll warn for spoilers, so you don't have to be too afraid for that. But of course I'll be analyzing the trailer and TV spots, and I feel fairly confident in large part of my ordering being true. Plus, on top of that, some additional speculation that might or might not come true. So if you consider either of those things spoilers or just really wanna know nothing about the movie, it might be time to tune out. And never come back. Okay, let's get started.
It is time to take the next step on your journey.
I'm not gonna be the dragon warrior anymore?
You will advance to spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace.
What do I know about being a spiritual leader?
What is it you're holding?
A cookie?
You were chosen to become something more than you already are.
Scenes with Po and Shifu are very obviously at the beginning of the movie. Besides that, I don't think I can say much else about these. Besides that they are walking up the stairs, so that gives some ordering indication of the individual scenes, as you can also see in how I ordered them. Besides that, it's interesting that the Jade Palace has been renovated as Kai destroyed it along with the stairs in the last movie.
Inner peace. Dinner, please. Dinner with peas. In a sesame soy glaze. This is not working at all.
And now for the meditation scenes, like them or not. I personally like the inner peace one though. Not much to say either. I heard someone speculate the leaves of the choke joke is because Shifu just passed away in a similar fashion to Oogway, and that's where the blossom comes from. But in that case the scenes are probably switched, but let's not hope that, because I'd walk right out of the theater if that happens. After this some time might pass, but Po will probably meet Zen right about now.
Who's that?
The chameleon.
How do I find the chameleon?
One thing I'm not sure about is where he meets her. It's likely a prison, but it might be in the Valley of Peace still, because you can see that it's a mildly low quality prison where the back wall is just made of rocks. And I feel like the Valley of Peace might have a prison like that is practical but not the most secure. It's not such a big place as Gongman City, for example, where more stronghold prisons are necessary. But of course it could also be a prison just somewhere in a town where Po moves through on his journey. That's why I placed these scenes here, because Po was still in the valley in the last few scenes. Also logically you'd say Zen would be introduced fairly early on in the movie. I think the chameleon being a threat will force Po to journey to defeat her. But he doesn't know where she resides or needs help or intel either way. And that's where Zen comes in.
We'll just have to get an army of our own.
Keep your surf off my turf!
Assuming Po meets Zen in the Valley of Peace, next up Po might get his Dragon Warrior outfit that he imagined himself wearing ever since the opening scene of the first movie. He might get the outfit in the valley or just shortly on his journey. So this is my first theory of where these scenes are placed. I'll talk about the second option later in the video, but right now it doesn't seem like either one is more likable than the other to me. So please don't zone out during this one yet. You can see all these shots just have a similar dark background and environment, and Po is wearing his Dragon Warrior outfit in all of them. So I think these scenes are just very close to each other, to say the least. The shot where Po and Zen see a town of light is when they arrive in this location, or at least an inhabited part of it. And I think this location might be the Panda village. Or maybe they expanded it and it's an extension of it. I had evidence for this theory, but then realized it didn't really make any sense. So now it's just a possibility I wanna mention. At least the dark sky in the scenes might indicate that they have traveled, but I don't know. What worries me about this is that they might do a travel montage again, but this time that'd be a good time for Po to get to know his new companion Zen. So I hope they handle that well and it doesn't feel like they didn't interact during the travel at all. I think the shot with Lee, Mr. Ping and Zen is a dock where Po and Zen might arrive in this town. Or maybe they'll depart and continue their journey at this point. Either way, I think this is them talking a little bit about strategy and Zen deciding to go form an army, which will then be their main plan from then on. Some have already pointed out why the 5 or the trained pandas from the last movie don't join the fight, of which the YouTuber Isaac Carlson in his video about the trailer. And honestly, the pandas kinda outnumbered the zombies in the third movie, while the Chameleon's army is way bigger. So they might actually join the fight, but they still just need more numbers to even have a chance of winning. There's also another scene which has dark backgrounds where Po, Lee and Ping look at lizards on the wall. But the fact that there's lizards and just the whole background environment kinda points that they are looking at the Chameleon's territory and the scene might play later in the movie. They might be spying on the enemy as preparation for a final battle or something like that, which also kinda ties in with the pandas eventually joining the fight with Lee and Ping being there. I do kinda find it weird that they are this close up though, but what do I know about sneaking through places?
What is this place?
The best crooks and criminals live here.
You're a wanted criminal?
You sound surprised. Is it surprising? I'm gonna lead you right to her front door.
Now that I think the first strategy has been thought out, I think Po and Zen arrive at the Crook City. This might be kinda confirmed by the fact that it's daytime again, so they might have traveled a bit again. Although it was also kinda bedtime in the previous scenes anyways, but I guess it kinda adds up with the day cycles, coincidentally or not.
Now you kids be careful of those fireworks.
Violence makes our tummies tingle.
Why should we help you?
We can take down the Chameleon together.
Or slow and painful?
Slow and painful.
Quick and painless?
Being the Dragon Warrior, it's who I am. Skadoosh.
In these few scenes they try to recruit the criminals, and as you can see it's later in the day again. I think this might be because it's not like the city is run by criminals and it's not just thievery the whole day. But more so just that the thieves come out at night and the city is theirs, or at least roamed by them a lot. After all, during the daytime scenes you can see there's a ton of citizens walking around and scientific research points out that it's unlikely they're all criminals. After all, Zen only claims the best criminals live there, not that they rule day and night. One more note about the daytime scenes though that connect into these ones. You saw Po once again couldn't go stealth mode and some bombastic events happen. But I'm just not sure what triggers them or why they happen. Like maybe the crooks are actually underground, they are getting to that? But no, you can see the sky in the night scenes, right? So does the hectic stuff just happen on accident and do they then just decide to lay low until the night? I really don't know how it connects into the night scenes, not even with the TV spot footage. The way Zen says the best crooks and criminals live in this city and then Po is surprised she's a criminal makes me think Zen might even live in this city and she might have just gone into the Valley of Peace to steal something notable. More on that later, although it could very well just be trailer editing of course. Anyhow, Po tries to recruit this band of riffraff, but I don't think it goes so well. The criminals threaten to fight/torture Po and Zen, and a bit of interview spoilers coming up. Skip ahead to this very long await time on screen to avoid it. So yeah, in an interview the director indicated that the criminals are kinda villains, or at least antagonists in the movie. So for me that adds up with at least the first try of recruitment failing. Besides that we can see Po and Zen fight characters that for sure aren't the Chameleon's lizards. So I think they fail to recruit the criminals and then have to fight their way out of the city because the criminals want to capture them. I mean, you have the Dragon Warrior within your grasp. No crook would pass up that opportunity. Both the lighting and environment in those two short fight scenes also look like it could be from the city. Looking at the buildings from the outside, I could definitely imagine them having a decor like this. I do like the idea of the criminals initially not wanting to work with them though. Maybe Po is actually also hesitant in allowing to help them, who knows. It could all tie into some themes of the movie where Po just likes fighting bad guys, but maybe sometimes they just need a talk and are qualified for redemption. He did already kinda try to redeem Tai Lung and Shen at the end of their respective movies, so maybe that's actually a part of why he doesn't feel like redeeming villains, because both of the times it failed. Of course this leads into him literally working with a thief, and on top of it all, Tai Lung's resurrection and possible redemption just means the movie is filled to the brim with villains. Also taking the Chameleon in mind, of course. In the third movie, Po was actually also already excited about fighting bad guys, and Shifu actually said that that's not just what Oogway chose him for. I just hope they don't go overboard with the portrayal of how excited he is to beat the bad guys, and that it doesn't become uncharacteristic. After they fail to recruit the crooks, Po and Zen might just decide to sneak into the Chameleon's lair as a duo and sneak up on her. Remember when Po also wanted to take on Kai alone in Kung Fu Panda 3? This does maybe contradict the theory that the pandas plan on helping though, because why not just get them anyways? But on the other hand, if you don't have the numbers, you might as well go with little to not get noticed and pull something cheeky off. After all, Zen is a tricky thief. But of course there's a little air let loose and the lizards chased him. I do think the scene I placed after, where they epically traverse the tunnel by working together, might be them escaping those lizards. You can kinda see that the tunnel they flee through is the same as the one they spin through. Po and Zen also use each other's velocity and landings to spin through the tunnel. This is really similar to when Po and Tigress got up the tower together in Kung Fu Panda 2, where it was more so Tigress that came up with the idea. Is this actually a thought out callback and did Po get this idea for traversal from that scene? Or maybe it's just a coincidental callback, but a good one nonetheless. Oh, and also because the duo end up facing the Chameleon on their own, this kinda confirms that the stealth strategy they came up with actually worked, be it with a few woken up lizards. I think it's safe to say they lose this fight though, more on that actually right now.
You finally met your match, Chameleon.
We're not so different, you and I.
Skadoosh. Stand back. I'm gonna kick my butt.
And then there's the first Chameleon showdown. And this is a very notable kind of spoilery thing I'll come back to later, that this is not the final battle by any means. And that they lose this one. One interesting thing is that the Chameleon already shapeshifts into Po here, but it's unlikely she's already tongue. Yeah, okay, you get what I mean. So I do think that's not necessarily to transform into anyone, but more so to absorb their skills.
How should we do this?
And there seems to be a lot of escaping in this movie, as I think they are escaping the Chameleon's lair in the scenes after that. A notable clue is that they throw the spears at Po and then a red door slightly opens. Remember that door and pay some attention to the background behind it. The red doors look like the one in the backflip scene after, same for the background with the statue. I don't think these scenes are directly linked though, as the door isn't opened in the backflip scene, but I do think the backflip scene is linked with the one after that. As you can see, the same side railings in both scenes, just from different angles. To dig this out further, I need to go into some what you could consider spoilers, partially regarding the synopsis, so skip ahead to the shown time to avoid them. If you pay some attention, you'll notice the Chameleon has Poe's Staff of Wisdom in her hand when resurrecting Tai Lung. The synopsis also states that the Chameleon needs the staff to resurrect the old villains, as shown here. And you can see in earlier scenes, like the ones with Shifu and the one in the city with the crooks, both in daylight and moonlight, that Poe still has his staff. This confirms the Chameleon succeeds in stealing his staff. But what if Zen is actually also out for it and might have promised to sell it to a bidder or something? Maybe that bidder is even the Chameleon herself, as Zen let Poe ride to her front door. That's literally a quote from her in the trailer. Of course, this also works well with her sneaking out during or after this fight, as she got her prize and doesn't have any business with Poe anymore. Of course, it's all wild speculation as well, but it is a possibility in my scroll. A possible hint to maybe even all the crooks working with the Chameleon is that there's a shot of the Chameleon in the trailer with definitely not the lizards and possibly the crooks behind her. Because they have similar animal designs to the crooks and the new city's residents. They kinda look worried and afraid, but I guess they still just stand in a territory without being dead. And yes, the engravings in the background point towards the fact that this is the Chameleon's territory. Option 2 is that they are her prisoners and used for ransom or something. They might even just be regular citizens from the new city.
Tai Lung, big fan. Once I possess the kung fu of every master villain, no one will dare question my power.
Not even the great Dragon Warrior.
But finally, for the spectacle of the trailer, I think. Why did I place this so late? Because of a spoiler thing I just talked about 2 seconds ago, so yeah, you can skip ahead again if you wanna. So yeah, I just mentioned she has the staff in this scene, whereas Poe still has it in the other scenes and like in the confrontation, so this has to take place after the confrontation, thus making it probably the last scene of all the trailer clips, with a few small exceptions. I think one debatable sequence is the one I had the hardest time figuring out where it took place, and they also spent the longest time talking about it already. So let's add even more time to it. The scenes with the dark atmosphere and the Dragon Warrior outfit. So, things to note. Poe doesn't have the staff for fighting the Stringray, but also not when he's looking at the village. Although in the latter, Poe and Zen are cut off a good bit of the screen, so Poe might still have it in his hand, it's just visible outside of the shot. And like I already mentioned, he also has his backpack in that one, but not during the Stringray fight, so he might have also dumped his staff momentarily. But maybe Poe just doesn't have his staff in those scenes, who knows. That being said, the scenes with a dark background and the Dragon Warrior outfit could very much as well take place after Poe and Zen have lost to the Chameleon, and the presumable Panda village is more of a temporary safe haven for them. Of course, this also leads more logically into Lee and Ping also appearing in that other dark shot I assumed would take place later towards the end of the movie. But if we purely go off the night sky, that might not say too much due to travel times. But it still sounds pretty logical. And maybe Zen saying they need an army of their own isn't pinning a strategy, but more so an inspiration that she now does have a plan to make the crooks help for sure. Or maybe even additionally get the pandas or Ssshh and even the 5 to help wherever they may be. Speaking of Zen, of course this scenario eliminates the possibility Zen snuck out during or after the Chameleon fight, unless she already returned at that point. But for now that chronologically feels like she changed heart in a millisecond. In this scenario I guess Poe also just got the outfit on the way back, but to me it feels a bit illogical if he took such a triumphant outfit after defeat, unless it was for disguise. Not the most subtle one though. And he also seems pretty happy in the Stringray fight still, whereas the previous movie showed he could definitely feel defeat. Unless it's a distraction, question mark? But it's still built up pretty epically with him confidently attacking the Stringray, so that feels weird to me in this scenario. In regard to both of the scenarios of these scenes, I do think the second option I just mentioned could have the advantage of meaning Tai Lung appears earlier and thus gets more possible screen time and maybe even an arc or active role. This is because you don't have to spend some time at the early in-between stop at the village, which I could see taking up some good time with the Stringray fight, the build up to it, reintroducing Lee and Master Ping, or Mr. Ping, and talking some strategy. But what is this? A wild third option has appeared? Is that the sentence from the thing? So apparently there's a novel for the movie and there's a few example pages already revealed. Link in the description. Here's a time for a skip again if you really don't wanna know. So basically the novel begins in the Valley of Peace with Poe fighting the Stringray. He literally says keep yourself off my turf, pretty much confirming this is the scene from the trailer. This means for now it's likely the Stringray fight takes place at the start of the movie, where for the other scenes one of my two theories might be true. Funnily enough, my very first theory was that the Stringray fight was the very beginning of the movie, as it would be a great display of Poe's powers and how he's potentially evolved. On top of that, it just affirms that he really likes fighting bad guys instead of spiritual stuff. Oh, and some more spoilers regarding some villain stuff and the actual movie's opening. Skip if you don't want to hear it. So yeah, the movie actually opens with the scene of the Chameleon as Tai Lung terrorizing rams. At least the novel mentions rams in a snowy environment and the lights going out. This exact shot on screen right now is rams in a snowy environment if you look really close, with no lights to be seen. I do think this also kinda confirms that the Chameleon can shapeshift into anyone, but it's just that she doesn't have their skills and powers yet. That's what she needs to do the thing for. Yeah, I'm not going to say it again, not even close to it. Okay, there are some lights, but do they reduce the darkness enough? And maybe the Chameleon just lit them to build even more tension before appearing to scare them. In one of the TV spots we can also see another clip that I think also takes place during this opening. In the clip, Tai Lung throws something at another thing. The important thing is first off that it's actually the Chameleon, however, because someone smartly pointed out on Reddit that whenever the Chameleon transforms into Tai Lung, the pants are red, whereas Tai Lung's own are purple. If I can find the Reddit post, I'll link it in the description. Second off, we see some rams again. Of course the rams might just live near the Chameleon's territory and she attacks them again later on. But, this is kinda a stretch, the Chameleon kinda just yeets the object away, which I feel like doesn't really align with how aggressive yet precise Tai Lung fought in the first movie. Of course the Chameleon can do whatever she wants while shapeshifted, but it kinda makes me think she hasn't absorbed his kung fu yet. So the only thing for her to do here is just aggressively throw stuff, instead of using the unacquired stronger kung fu. Again, kinda a stretch though. Something I should mention is the other two villains potentially also showing up to slurp some of Tai Lung's screen time away. But I do think Shen already got all his depth in the second movie, and in my opinion I think the best for him would be if he just wanted everything to be over with and return to being dead and at peace, for life brought him nothing but suffering. Kai on the other hand had so little depth going on that they could do any arc on him and it'd be more than we got in 3. But the audience is the least exciting for his return, so if he got nothing and he would just be there, maybe with some dialogue, it maybe wouldn't even matter. Also in a TV spot there are scenes where the crooks seem to be joining the fight against the lizards. So my guess is these are taking place in a final battle, or at least later in the movie, at least after Tai Lung is resurrected. Or maybe I'm incredibly wrong and the crooks still join the heroes the first time around. Lastly, there's a few scenes I left out. There's a shot of the Chameleon which could honestly be anywhere in the movie. I also talked about it in a spoiler section, so it's long checked off my list. And then there's a shot where she turns into an elephant. I do think this could be part of an introductory scene for the Chameleon where she terrorizes villages and her powers are established. At least in the first 3 movies, all the villains always got the introductory scene before even meeting Po, so it's likely that'll happen for her as well. Not to say that this movie comes out like 8 years later after the last one. So lastly, in short, I think the flow of the movie could be as follows. Po learns the Chameleon is a threat, takes Shen for help, they talk strategy, try to recruit the crooks but fail, decide to try defeating the Chameleon stealth mode, but fail again, and the Chameleon will now resurrect Tai Lung as she's always wanted. How endearing. So that's the gist of how Kung Fu Panda 4 might play out. And without asking where the Furious 5 are, where all the Furious 5 DreamWorks, this movie is gonna flop.
Bruh. 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 Bruh.